is Mustached. Tom here to review the series Heated Rivalry. So, the only way I even knew that this was a thing was because I started seeing people react to it on my timeline on YouTube. I didn't see any trailers, I didn't see anything about it, so I didn't know it came out in 2025, was based on a book, and yeah, I wasn't sure what this was, other than what seemed like hockey. But to be frank, what I did not expect was the amount of gay sex that is on display here. So that was a blast of interesting information, just, seeing people's thumbnails and going, wonder what that's all about, and going, oh, okay then, so, yeah, so the movie, or series rather, follows a secret relationship that happens between the two rival characters, named characters. They initially go through the motions of denial and, feeding off of the desire of mayhaps this rivalry being the promoted thing, the thing that everybody sees. What is the story, right? And what is reality? So they're trying to figure all that nonsense out. And along the way, we have characters getting into other relationships, our main characters, thinking that they can, live this alternative life. This takes place around the early 2000s, so this is about, in real terms, of when gay marriage was about to be a thing and then became a thing. So this is definitely one of the biggest transitional periods of our lifetime in terms of acceptance, let's just say, because there has been a lot of moving backwards, or more so, I guess, moving sideways. I'm not really sure what direction it is, but it certainly hasn't been moving forward, that's for sure. That's the only direction I don't think it was ever heading in for quite some time, which is rather unfortunate, I think, but I digress. So, while this story does heavily have romance of the same sex, I do think that there are some story beats that do start to transition. So, yes, while initially it does start from pure attraction, there does seem to be some level of chemistry that the two characters start sharing between one another, starting to get to know each other throughout the stories as it progresses, after, fumbling and falling and going all over the place. So the character on the left there, I believe his name is Shane, the one on the right, the Russian player, known as Ivory, I think they call him, or Roganov, something. I forget what name because they keep changing his name quite a bit in this series, depending on who's talking to him, but I digress in saying that they start to, fumble the bag. Just as an example, there's this party where these celebrities from some television show are approaching, so the character on the left, Shane, ends up talking to this young lady that's actress, and then they start getting friendly and spending the night, and things end up truly getting romantic, and yes, even sexual. So he does have an experience of that sort the first of his kind, while his Russian counterpart here has been quite known to have a fling or two, as he so casually puts it, rather. But he's more discomforted, and after the fact, she approaches, and, they have a little sit down, and she just kind of outright gets about to that position of just kind of asking if he's gay or not. She like sort of leads him to that conclusion in a sort of in an interesting way. I think it was like one of the. I don't know why I found the statistic so funny. Maybe because it might be more accurate than I would ever know. But like she said, like, oh, like 80% of actors are like gay or whatever, and I'm like, yeah, I probably, I don't know, right? I haven't been in the acting scene since college, so again, I wouldn't know anymore. Anyway, point being, so he has to drive to that conclusion. She's just the chauffeur, as it were, guiding him to the correct conclusion that that sometimes attraction just runs one way, and it can't be helped. Oh my goodness gracious, who could have ever seen that in, technically, when this series came out in 2025, but, this series does take place back when, gay acceptance was reaching that threshold, right? Right on the precipice, because it was before. I think the series starts in early 2000, and then sort of progresses pretty far throughout the series. Because they go throughout the seasons a lot, and even in early as episode 1, so I don't know much about sports, so I don't know, like, I'm guessing, like, the season would, like, take up a year, or, I guess that's how a season works. Again, that's my best guess, as somebody on the outside of sports here. Anyway, so, it's this battle of what they think they want versus what they do want, and, meanwhile, there's this other relationship that actually simultaneously happens in episode 3. It's someone from another team, and we start following this character, and he starts seeing this barista slash, well, not a barista, but like someone who sells like smoothies or whatever, also same sex. And it's interesting because he seems to vibe chemistry a little bit better initially with this guy, though, throwing hints, as it were, and of course it goes where you think it goes. They hook up and they have sex. But as the relationship builds up to that precipice, it all becomes about, because I believe their relationship would have happened in 2011 or something. I forget what the date was, but point being is, like, there was this definitely odd pressure within sports, I would imagine, to, there's the story, right? The concept, and you typically, or more traditionally anyway, it's always, the straight couple. That's why when, the Shane goes with the actress, like, the paparazzi are, like, all over that story within a heartbeat. In a second, they take one photo and boom, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, there's the story, as, as the predictable story. But as this story, as a sort of parallel story, is happening, uh, you know, he initially, this third character, the third player, rather, initially wants it to be on the down low, have it be the secret, because things, at least in the sports world, at least this sports world, no one else has seemingly come out. This isn't a thing in sports, or at least not, like, well known, or... I mean, I think that timeline would add up. Again, like, you have to think, right? Because that's, again, just as the precipice of, like, acceptance, and LGBTQ, equal weddings and all that stuff was starting to, like... So that you would, like, in real life, that would be a hurdle, right? Still, that last hurdle to jump over. So, yeah, I think that maps onto reality pretty closely. And, he plays, and the barista guy, I'll just call him the barista guy, because I don't remember his name. He's watching on, he starts watching the sport. He wasn't really invested before, but, since they're in a relationship now, might as well support your guy, right? So he does so, but he's also torn, as he's one individual that is very much deep within the actual gay community. They're in this bar, they often hook up, they spill the tea, as it were, and tea spills rather fast in the gay community. Whew! Oh boy, probably faster than, or just as fast as straight couples. Crazy, I know, but turns out there aren't really that many differences besides sexual attraction, as it would really turn out. Who could have ever foreseen this reality? But I digress in saying that eventually his quote-unquote girlfriend, or the girl that sticks up for him, rather, has a moment with the hockey player and is like, hey, this guy is, like, trying to keep your secret, and it's really upsetting him, because it's like this torment, this idea of being in the closet, and, I'm sure, like, there are plenty of younger people who are within that closet who very much feel that real burden of, like, oh man, especially the further back you go, the realer and harder it would get in real life. And you still have people in 2026 still trying to be like, oh, it can't, now it's completely, the narrative is completely shifted. Now the people on the online get to say it's the gay agenda now, because since it's been celebrated for so quote unquote long. They have what, like 10 years of acceptance, even less so, technically speaking, before this nonsense started. So not even really a decade, close to it, I would argue, realistically speaking. And then everybody said, wait a minute, no, we need to go backwards. The online real life did. And that really did happen in real life. Gay shows got canceled. The Owl House. So, that was not that long ago. That was within my timeline of something I know that still feels really recent, all things considered. But boy, does time sure fly by, and do we ever somehow work our way backwards through progression to trudge our way forward, but sideways. It's a weird time to be living in. I know. But here we are nonetheless. But hey, I am here to review this series honestly, as I will always do, because that is my code, my modem, my modus operandi, despite only having one supporter still. I always will keep up my promise. Uh, but I did say in a few of my other reviews at this point that I was at that hunt. Remember, is in the previous the series the lesbian space princess review. If anybody watched that, barely anybody did, but point being, if you watched that and if you watched this, you recall in that review I had said it's really a shame, that there were no happy gay couples, like there was no happy ending. And I feel like this just reaches the point that I was just about to get to, but actually doesn't reach the point that I'm actually asking for. The happily ever after part. That's the part I was looking for. And it's the part I still not have found. It's crazy to think that it's been 10 years of so-called acceptance and not one happy ending in sight. It's crazy that you typically get more traditional stuff like bury your gays is something I'm all too familiar with in terms of like a timeline of events. Or let's make the gay characters the funny characters. Tee hee ho ho. They're the joke. They're the butt of the joke. Which it's like, okay, fine, whatever. We'll lean into that. I guess I guess it's better than burying your gays. Until that came back from time to time, because that seems to never fully fade. But I've always been someone who's always realistically said, in a horror environment, I think nobody should be immune from death, so that has always been my stance at the very best. So, I have never truly minded it. It's just that I would also just really appreciate the happy ending story. The story that happens, not just the before, not just, ooh, look at the sexy, crazy nonsense, Not just that, the actual, like, get-together happy ending. There are so many stories that get to have that. Your sequels and prequels of the Disney era really speak to that, despite whether or not they are of quality or not. But I digress in saying they get that. That's nice, isn't it? That there's always seemingly a happily ever after, and then you get the sequel that shows, like, oh, what were they up to all this time, And then it sort of proceeds through that. Must feel real nice. Anyway. So this series does end with, the come out of the main character. Or, the character we're sort of semi-following, Shane here, alongside, Iliad, as he's called. His parents, or his father, discovers their romantic a getaway. And when I say romantic, I mean of the sexual variety, of course. Because of course they gotta find out that way. That's a real bummer. Had to rip off the Band-Aid at that point. This is the season finale. And you get pretty much what come out scene. Another one. Huzzah! I just finished watching Stranger Things. It feels like Stranger Things just keeps popping back up. I just, finished ripping EFAP apart on their terrible take on it. So it's really engaging to be reminded of that yet again with another come-out scene, and then have the series end just after the come-out scene, because of course it does, and then they ride home off together, and then that's it. There's no what's next. They planned for a what's next, but we're not seeing that. No, Not allowed. No happy ending. Not allowed yet today. It's the what if. That's the ending. It's the what if. Where's the potential of this relationship? Where is it going, you know? That's the best of what we can get right now. But hey. It is what it is. Heated rivalry. You know, I'm pretty sure the book is called something else. I think this title is a bit more appropriate, in terms of, like, the implication of heated. But I digress in saying, I guess that was an interesting watch. Like, I don't know what else much to say. Like, I guess the writing did get a little bit better, but I was hoping for a little bit more. I don't know, like, it felt very erotic. Like, it unironically felt like I was watching just a gay porn. Like, not, like, I'm not trying to, like, play around here. I'm just, like, trying to state, like, where I feel in terms of, like, where that started, the series, and then how it ended. Because I do feel like, again, the writing gets stronger, but it does come off from a place that does seem, very just... And boy, you know, we already know who the series is actually going to appeal to. The already gay crowd and women. Let's not pretend that that's not real. That's still very much the case of the only types of people who will enjoy this content. 'Cause boy, there is a lot of ass. And, like, I mean a lot of ass. Whew. Smooth, buttery ass is, the best I can describe. For you lovely folks wondering, you know, very attractive people. Of course, you gotta make sure, your chemistry is not just chemistry, but, that your actors are very sexy. I think that this is very deliberate. And, you know, I don't find it very off-putting that this is connected to sports. In trying to be like, no, there is a bit more to this story. I feel like that it almost does come across of, like, it's not just a porn, okay? You know, that's what it almost reads as when you first start watching this. Seriously, I don't know how else to describe it other than that. But the series does eventually touch upon the more, you know, realistic sort of vibe of that era. I would get the sense of, especially around sports. That definitely seems to have a connection there. So yeah, I don't know if I would give it a solid 7 out of 10. I don't think the writing is strong enough to earn a 7 out of 10, if I'm being quite honest. If I'm being as objective as possible. Do you see what that looks like, when you're actually being honest? It looks a bit harsh, I know, but again, I'm being fair. So it would have been, to get a little bit more of, like, I don't know, maybe, because the balance is weird. Let's just say that. There is a lot of sex scenes in this series. A lot. If I'm not mistaken, there's probably more than one per episode, because... and I'm trying to remember if there's a scene, a episode without sex, and I'm like, I don't think that there is. So, I don't know, it feels like a series that can't help escape just being like, I know it's a weird word to use, but unironically, I feel like I have to use it. It feels safe. Bizarrely, I know. That is a weird word to say, all things considered. For as sexual as this show is, it feels surprisingly safe in the writing. Well, at least toward the beginning. And it finally starts to find itself, I feel like. So, it is a bit closer to even a 5 or a 6 out of 10 for me, anyway, in terms of, again, going as objective as is possible. Because, boy, does that beginning just... It's just like, oh, we're just skipping a lot here to jump into sex. Okay, well, alrighty, we'll see what, it's like, again, it's just like, oh, it's a wake-up call, definitely, that's for sure. But one I was not ready for, but hey, I say it's okay. At the end of the day, it's okay. It's not good, it's not great, it's okay. So that is my review of Heated Rivalry. And if you ended up enjoying that review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head you over to my petition about smaller YouTubers. Also check out my series where I help shout out smaller YouTubers called Respect the Grind. Also check out my PayPal, where you can help support me and my channel directly. Excuse me. And my Discord server, we can join, collab, shill, and all that cool stuff for free. And until next time, everybody, I'm still looking. One day I will find that series, and I'll be like, there it is, the happily after one. That's the one I'm waiting for. But until that time, bye-bye.